Archaeologists have found bones over 10,000 years old in Alaska and Canada. These bones reveal diet, health, and unique physical traits. Skull analysis and dental patterns suggest a population distinct from later Native Americans. Scientists named this population the ancient Beringians.
DNA sequencing compares ancient remains to modern Native Americans. Findings: ancient Beringians were genetically distinct, separate from other Siberian groups. Some of their genes survived in modern populations, but much of their DNA vanished, leaving a hidden chapter of North American history. The old story of a single migration no longer fits. Early North America was populated by diverse groups arriving at different times. Evidence shows interaction, trade, and limited interbreeding between populations. They survived in harsh Arctic conditions. Tools and hunting techniques show advanced adaptation. They hunted caribou, fished rivers, and foraged plants, a lifestyle completely different from later Native Americans. Ancient Beringians gradually disappeared, possibly due to climate change and migration of other populations. Their DNA remains in small traces among some modern groups. These findings rewrite our understanding of America's first inhabitants. History is not fixed, it evolves with new discoveries. Ancient Beringians remind us of the complexity and resilience of early humans. Modern Native Americans carry fragments of these stories, linking past to present. What we learn from DNA and bones changes how we view the history of a continent.
Scientists named this population the ancient Beringians. They were a branch of humanity that split off from other Siberian populations thousands of years ago. And yes, for those keeping track, textbooks may have been wrong. Surprise! Life for the Beringians was largely mundane. Hunting caribou, fishing rivers, gathering plants, sometimes frostbitten fingers. Now let's drift over to how they moved. Ancient Beringians didn't all stay in one place. Some migrated south as ice sheets melted, exploring forests and rivers that would later host mammoths, giant sloths, and various predators that were probably mildly terrifying if you were trying to cross a stream. Other groups stayed in the north, stubbornly clinging to the frozen terrain. DNA evidence shows multiple migration waves, sometimes overlapping, sometimes passing like ships in the night. Eventually, ancient Beringians began to disappear, not with wars or betrayals, just quietly. Climate change, migration of other groups, environmental pressures. Eventually, they vanished as a distinct population. But traces of their DNA lingered. Modern populations carry fragments of their genes, subtle echoes of lives long gone. Bones and DNA reveal their quiet legacy, reshaping what we know about the earliest North Americans. And for us, it's a reminder that history is not fixed. It's fluid, constantly rewritten by science and discovery. So, after wandering 10,000 years back in time, what have we learned? Ancient North America was complex, diverse, and dynamic. Ancient Beringians were survivors, quietly stubborn, and genetically unique. DNA and bones are storytellers in their own right, silent, patient, and occasionally snarky if you squint at them just right. The story continues today as we uncover more evidence, rewrite assumptions, and marvel at the quiet persistence of early humans. So, next time you think history is done, remember, it's only as complete as the bones and DNA we've managed to dig up. And now, maybe take a deep breath, let your thoughts drift, and imagine walking across the ice of the Bering Land Bridge, carrying your family, your tools, and just enough patience to make it through another frozen day. Now, let's float over to the Beringians' tools, because Survival without tools is like trying to toast bread in the snow. They had stone knives, scrapers, and projectile points, basically the 10,000-year-old version of multi-tools. Imagine sitting around chipping away at a rock thinking, someday people will analyze this and write videos about me. Probably didn't happen, but still. These tools weren't just for hunting, they were for everyday life. Scraping hides to make clothing, shaping wood into useful implements, maybe even some playful carving if someone had a spare minute. And yes, archaeologists can tell the difference between a tool used to skin a caribou and a tool used to gently annoy a sibling. Not that anyone actually wrote that down, but the wear patterns are surprisingly informative. So next time you complain about losing your favorite gadget, remember the ancient Beringians were fashioning knives and scrapers with nothing but patience, rock, and sheer willpower. Food. Always food. Humans are food-obsessed. Beringians were no exception. Caribou were their mainstay, but rivers offered salmon and other fish. Plants and berries filled in gaps. Survival meant variety, but also a lot of trial and error. Some berries were poisonous, some fish were inedible, and some days all they had were roots that tasted like disappointment. Interestingly, bones tell us a lot about diet. Stable isotope analysis can show exactly what people ate, which is kind of like reading a food diary etched into bones over millennia. No Instagram, no fancy captions, just science. And it turns out the diet was surprisingly well-balanced for survival in extreme cold. The Beringians likely lived in small family groups. Cooperation wasn't optional. Children learned from elders. Elders were probably opinionated, insisting the younger ones not poke the fire with frozen fingers. Knowledge was practical: hunting techniques, tool-making, and survival hacks. The Beringians had a lot to contend with: ice sheets, bitter winds, long nights, and unpredictable winters. Climate dictated their movements, food availability, and survival strategies. Unlike us, they couldn't check the weather app. They had to read the sky, the snow, and animal behaviors. Migratory patterns of caribou, fish spawning times, ice stability. Eventually, the Beringians began to fade from history, not with battles or catastrophes, but slowly. Climate change, new migrating populations, and environmental pressures gradually reduced their numbers. Some merged into later populations. Some vanished almost entirely. Their DNA survived in subtle traces, like whispers of the past. And modern science, with its fancy DNA sequencing, has allowed us to hear those whispers. Bones and genes, it turns out, are storytellers. They are patient, never rushing, and occasionally slightly sarcastic if you squint at them right. They remind us that history is messy, gradual, and never entirely neat.